Elder care attorney Barry Curtis joins us this morning as we talk older America. Barry, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Jimmy Dale.
Exactly what is elder care?
It's basically the aging, the word elder, anywhere from 50s to 90s. And it's just that our aging population, there's specific legal issues that would arise from them only. And that's what it concerns, just the elderly.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the issues that the elder America faces today?
Health care, medical expenses, long-term care, options for care, whether it's in a facility or whether it's at home. A lot of benefits out there that maybe they can work to get.
Mm-hmm. Do you see children involved with their moms or dads in this?
I think the children are. Usually the parents are the ones, the elderly are the ones that pretty much stimulate that conversation. Mm-hmm. It definitely benefits the children in a lot of different ways, but it's just a hard topic for a child to come to their parents, who they definitely respect, to talk about their long-term care or a lot of times even their financial situations. Mm-hmm. Children just don't know.
Let's get into the long-term care. More and more elderly people are facing that today.
Well, they are. Baby boomers, they're flooding the systems. Long-term care, our age has, we're older, we live longer, and what comes with that is a lot of times the last 20 years of your life could be in some form of care given to you.
Barry Curtis, elder care attorney here in Sylacauga. You got a new office open out here too.
We do. I'm still at the funeral home, but the legal issues that face this community, a lot of times dealing with Medicaid long-term care, it's paper intensive. And I had to have an area that I could have administrative help. It's right there next to Evergreen Cemetery, opposite of Curtis & Son Funeral Home. And I go back and forth, but I have ladies that help me up there and try to work with the families that way.
Now, your family's been in the funeral home business many, many years.
Yeah, probably since my dad was in it in the late 50s, so it's been a long time.
Yeah. Elder care attorney Barry Curtis joins us this morning, and with older America, and we've got a number of older people here in the Sylacauga area too.
Yeah, and the older part, near retiree and up, there's a lot of decisions that can be made that, then again, like we said, it benefits their children. They're making their estate plans for their children's sake, and their plans make it tremendously easier for their children.
Talk about the financial side of elder care this morning.
Well, a lot of times the focus is that long-term care. Nursing home care can cost as much as $6,500 to $7,000 a month.
Wow.
So there you go, the financial end of it. It's a big decision. Sometimes children try to be the caregivers in the home. That's usually a tough issue, but a lot of families try to do that. But nowadays, husband and wife both are working. So a lot of times you have to look to the third party, whether it's sitters or whether it's a long-term care facility, and it's expensive either way.
That's shocking to see the cost here in 2017. Older America faces many, many issues that I wouldn't have thought of 20 years ago.
Well, the average age creeping up. You want, a lot of times you're doing wills to let people know what you want done with your assets once you pass. You are doing powers of attorney, which give the authority to your agent to help you in your financial dealings if you can't. You have medical powers of attorney, which gives the authority to a family member to make medical decisions for you. You just have a wide variety of things, and then you've got your property, whether you want to transfer your property to your children's names, put it into a trust. There's a lot of different issues that you can do, and all of those things will help your children or your loved ones afterwards.
Not much of it is very simple either, is it?
Well, it can be simple maybe from attorneys' standpoints, because they deal with it every day. But to the community, I know that it can be it's a task. But you can work through it, and a few months later, you got it all taken care of, and you feel a lot better that you've got things in line.
Who needs a will?
I would say that anyone that has accumulated assets probably needs a will. I think that sometimes that it could be that at the end of your life, maybe it's not that important, but there are periods of time in your lives that it's very important. And so I would say that everyone probably should think about getting a will.
You touched on power of attorney.
Yes.
Just a few minutes ago. Expand on that a little bit.
A power of attorney is something that you delegate to an agent, usually a child or a spouse, that can act in your stead in your financial dealings. It's a very powerful tool. You don't need to take lightly who you give that authority to. In January of 2012, Alabama joined a group of states that the Uniform Power of Attorney Act, which really takes the old, there used to be powers of attorney in the Reader's Digest that you just filled out. It's more of a bullet point. It's a real powerful tool. There's been a lot of people that might have had some issues with giving their authority to others. And so, we consult with those families and we make sure they know what they're doing, they understand what authority they're giving, and that can help you in a lot of issues.
There's been a lot of talk down through the years about elder care, and you went to law school. You went to law school for this particular type work?
Well, I probably always had wanted to go to law school, so it's something that was in the back of my mind. We had a lot of families through the 80s that would have a parent that needed to go into the nursing home, and the advice of the nursing home is that you have too many assets. You need to spend down your assets. And naturally the family would say, well, how do we do that? And they'd say a pre-need funeral. So families would come to me and say, the nursing home says I need to buy mother a prearranged funeral to spend her assets down. And I would always say, well, go talk to your attorney. Surely there's something else you can do. And in a little town like ours, it's hard to just specialize in one little area of law. And it wasn't a big practice. I'm still not so sure that elder care is a practice that you could maintain, just specifically with elder care. But in my situation, I kind of go back and forth, and I'm able to just focus on that. That's all I do.
Is there more and more people that are contacting you about this specific issue, elder care in their later years?
I think so. In the last couple of years, there has been a surge. I don't charge for consultations. Born and raised right here, born in Talladega, but raised right here in Sylacauga. And, I'm fortunate to have met a lot of people here in Sylacauga, and I get a lot of questions, and I don't mind answering them by phone or in person. And if it's something that we need to do further, I'll be glad to help, but I don't charge for the consultation at all. Barry
Curtis, elder care attorney here in Sylacauga, office on Highway 21 out near Evergreen Cemetery, is our guest this morning. What about insurance?
Insurance is it's something that everybody should strongly consider. definitely.
Does that tie into elder care?
Well, because it isn't an estate planning. Insurance, you are planning your estate. A lot of people use insurance as a mechanism to save monies, pay for final expenses. There are even insurance that could pay for your long-term care at the nursing home. Now, that's something that relatively new in the last 10 years or so, but there is long-term care insurance. So there's a lot of different types of insurance.
Estate planning.
Yes.
Expound on that a little bit more.
Just like you say, if you think about it, what happens at your death? Your estate is your assets once you pass away. And how you plan for what needs to be where and who gets what is all part of estate planning.
Why do we not like to think about that?
Well, from the funeral home standpoint, I think that, that's obviously people don't want to think about that portion of passing and leaving your loved ones. But the business side of it, I do think that a lot of families like to be prepared, like to know, have their affairs in order. The generation that we're dealing with now, they want to pay their bills. They want to handle their own obligations. And they want, they don't rely on their children to step in there and to take care of that for them. And this is a way for them to know what's going to happen and have it laid out for their next generation.
Oftentimes we think of our futures, especially as older Americans, and sometimes we don't take into consideration a lot of these things that you've talked about this morning. We just don't think about it. We're still working, but yet we're older America and we're trying to make a living and that kind of thing. But this can turn in a hurry, can it?
Well, we don't know. So you just kind of get your affairs in order. And what happens, happens. You're just prepared to take the next step, whatever that might be. Speaking
of steps, what order would you suggest for an individual who is looking for elder care? Just sit down with you, or what steps would they take?
There's a lot of good attorneys in Sylacauga, and a lot of people have their own family attorneys, and definitely just contact them. If you have specific questions, or if you don't have an attorney that you rely with often, then give me a call. I'll be glad to help. I am versed in the Medicaid rules when it pertains to long-term care. That's something that's kind of specific, but all the other areas that I talked about, the powers of attorney, the wills, deed work, things like that, all attorneys are able to help you with that.
Is Medicaid cumbersome?
It's dealing with the government. So it's paperwork intensive. And a lot of times families have children who are taking this task and having to do the issues that Medicaid would require. They're working. They have families of their own. And so a lot of times I can kind of fill that gap. And it is paper intensive, yes.
Example, mom or dad needs to go into a nursing home. They've got their home.
And there's a lot of specific rules, and we don't have enough time, and I definitely, probably the advice that I would give people is before you stress over it too much, just give me a call. Because you can hear anything, and a lot of different rules pertain to a lot of different situations. And so there are some allowances that Medicaid allows you to retain. And so it might not be quite as bad as what you might have heard at the coffee shop or, just give me a call.
What's the most common question asked to you?
My home. What happens to my home? The nursing home gets my home, and it's not the nursing home. It's Medicaid has issues with you having assets, and your home is usually your biggest asset. But there are some allowances when it comes to that. And so, like I said, I mean, just don't stress over it too much and think the worst. Just give me a call and maybe we talk about it, and maybe you sleep a little bit better when you find out what the rules really are.
I don't want the government getting my money.
Well, that's pretty much, or my home, or it's just some issues. And there are some allowances that Medicaid allow you to retain, or your spouse can retain. And but there are some things that you can do way ahead of time that might alleviate some of those issues.
So I guess that's the key, isn't it? Being prepared.
Kind of planning a little bit, maybe not as in depth but to get your plan started and just take a step at a time, A
lot of people don't think about wills until they're reminded of it later in life too.
Well, it definitely, things can be taken care of without a will. But your family members are going to have to work harder.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit more costly. So the will can give you a peace of mind, give your kids kind of a roadmap, and might save you a little money in the process.
So if people have a question this morning or would like to make an appointment, how can they do that with you?
The number at the law office is 256.
You do know it, don't you?
I'm thinking. 256-245-8112. Or you can call me at the funeral home. I go back and forth at Curtis & Son. 256-245-4361.
That's it. Elder care attorney Barry Curtis, our guest this morning. We appreciate you being here with us.
Glad to be here.
All right.